I was, I was living there,
Right.
for a period of time, to do all these tests. I was getting paid for it. And, my tests were coming back and they couldn't believe how just spot on normal everything was, because the falsity that most people were getting at the time when they were taking steroids, and the reason they were going on this on-off schedule that everybody was followed, which was the worst thing in the world anybody could have done, because at first you're just blowing your hormones out of
Proportion. Right.
Yeah, and then you're coming back and expecting them to do something that they're not capable of doing. So, we found out you stay on or you're going to be off. So I stayed on. I think it was a total of 17 and a half years, I believe I was on.
Right.
Continually. And the big mistake I made was getting off steroids. When I started franchising my gyms, I started getting all kinds of different ailments that were catching up with a 40-year-old at the time. And
I've actually talked about that on the show one time. There's a great responsibility that comes to using hormones, and that is that you have to continue to do it for the rest of your life once you start doing it.
I think the whole answer is exactly. Yeah, this is the first time I heard your show. What you guys are, what's the companies that you're involved with, the polypeptides and the various, all the new scientific supplements that are coming out now. If a person stayed on that stuff and stayed on a hormone replacement program, they could keep the same physique, and staying on a training regimen. You keep the same.
But training is part of it. That's part of the responsibility. If you're going to use hormones, you have to make a commitment to stay on as you age. The other thing is you need to make the commitment to train as you age. Otherwise, that's when the heart starts getting funky and all the systems in the body start going awry. But I want to move this forward.
Normal atrophy. Yeah, but go ahead.
So give me the protocol. You were using how much a day?
I was using, entering that last 3 week or whatever period, sometime it'd be 5 week, mostly 3 week is when I jam it way up to the, but I would be approximately 3,000 milligrams a day at the time. So that's shots, oral tablets. And don't forget, back then we didn't have the growth hormone. This was, we were talking back in the 60s and 70s. I quit train. My last competition was 1979. And, I just did exhibitions till 82. Randy really got right on when he made me aware of what the dates were, because, it just went from one thing, then to the franchising, the international, then the clothing all over the world.
So Peter, you would actually do 3 injections upon waking or during the morning.
Yeah, like for example, if I left the gym, even when I was doing exhibitions in 1982, while I still had Gold's Gym, I had Gold's Gym already. I stopped competing, but I had exhibitions to do, so I was training. I was on the same schedule. Train all night. You get up in the morning. Before I go to bed in the morning, I would take several shots. I would go to eat some I'd have my hamburgers, which wasn't my main meal. That was to feed that anabolic activity after my training.
That was your post-workout meal. So so at one point you were using
it was my post-anabolic meal I knew every time I took anabolics, you got to have some kind of a, be it protein, be it some form of solid food. That'd be my meat. Then I'd go to sleep like a lion would. Right. And in the afternoon, before my training schedule started at night, I'd always try to get a piece of fish with a salad and
fuel the workout. Now, Randy, this 3 grams a day of combined androgen use, was this fairly widespread amongst the powerlifters and the bodybuilders back then, or was this something that Peter extracted because he was training as a powerlifter and brought it over?
No, 3 grams a day is what Peter was taking leading up to the last 3 weeks. The last 2 weeks, I understand Peter took it up to 10 grams.
Yeah, that's what I read. I was going to say it was 10 grams of combined androgens a day.
Before he got up to 10 grams, he was already on to 3 grams. Now, in powerlifting, when Peter first gave me his protocol, like, I'm not an expert in this area. I called Mauro and I asked him, is this possible? And Mauro looked at it and he said, I've never seen this before, but he says, yeah. He goes, it is possible. Like, and Mauro saw like powerlifters. One powerlifter walked up to him right in front of him, downed an entire bottle of Dianabol.
That's 100 tablets, right? Right.
Yeah, it's 500 milligrams, right at one shot. And Mauro said that powerlifters were already using IV drips in the 1970s before the bodybuilders were using it. So obviously some of the bigger guys were using quite a bit. I don't know exactly how much. Peter's the only guy, I think, who came right out to say exactly, or close to what he could recall, exactly what he was taking, like 5 bottles of Anavar, 3 bottles of Maxobalin, and 3 bottles of Winstrol with those 27 cc's of
oil a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah.
So you would take, what about wasn't there another, what was the one, there was another oral there that I didn't recognize, Orgabolin or something like that?
Well, that was a Russian one. See, that was for cattle, and what they would, bulls, they would give that, they quarter, and those were quartered. Now, I opened a bottle, and of course I got it in Italy, and I was going to England to do an exhibition, and I saw they were quartered, so I figured, well, this must be, not cracked up to be what they think it is. But there were only 10 tablets to a bottle, and I took the whole bottle. But what happened, it forces growth so incredibly fast that, and 1 quarter you have to shred it in a little shredder or whatever they call it, over the feed, and a bottle of that stuff should last 500 pounds of feed for all these bulls.
And you were taking a whole bottle in one shot.
Well, I took the whole bottle in addition to the 10,000 milligrams I already took, because I figured, how am I going to know how much better it performs? Well, then I collapsed in England. All my muscles went into spasms, and luckily I lived, because my heart could have gone into a spasm as well.
You were dehydrated at the time?
Well, I was dehydrated as well, yeah. And of course, with the accentuated anabolic activity at that last minute like that, it just was.
Yeah, it pushes your central nervous system over the edge. Randy, so in summary, the powerlifters led the charge. The Olympic athletes led the charge. These types of protocols leading up to a competition of getting up to a point of 10,000 combined androgen milligrams a day was commonplace back then, right?
I can't say that 10,000 milligrams was commonplace.
Oh, that was just something Peter was doing.
Well, that's why I called the chapter where no man had gone before.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even with the powerlifter in front of Mauro, that's only 500 milligrams. Peter, took several times more than that. So I doubt there was too many people engaging, like I said in the book, matching the testosterone derivatives as Peter back then.
Yeah.
I think he was leading the pack.
See, another thing that you have to take in consideration, that my caloric intake throughout the day wasn't as high as a lot of people's was either. But I had achieved that to a lot of the reason I was taking most muscular in so many competitions was because my intercellular as well as subcutaneous fats were fairly low, although I kept my fluid pretty high, so that was my form of insulation. And when I wanted to get in really top shape, where you show all the striations throughout the chest and the delts and so forth, throughout every part of the body, the striations came from taking that last minute fluid off, which was a lot easier to do than taking fat off at the last minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, clearly, also the anabolic index of your body, by using such high amounts of androgens, would predict that even though you were not taking in a lot of calories, your body was it was so anabolic that you were not losing muscle. Right. The body would probably go for fat far first before it would go for muscle. We have to take our last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick up this discussion. So there you have it. I mean, we're talking about back in the 70s, athletes using between 3 and 10 grams a day of combined androgens. So now I want to ask Randy the $1 million question. How does that translate to today's athletes with the inclusion of growth factors and peptides and other drugs? You're listening to Superhuman Radio. We'll be right back.